Hello, I'm Ushan Kavinda and student ID 1525323. Here I'm going to demonstrate Java Eclipse, XML-RPC and RMI server-side application development. Let's move to the Eclipse. Server GUI JFrame class is the main entry point of the application. Once the application started, it starts the XML-RPC web server using port number 89. In here, first create a web server object and then pass recycling server as the key and this recycling service object. Finally, start the web server using here. In the constructor method of this class, include all the JFrame properties. Header label, text area for display machine log, text area for display connected clients, text area for display engineering visits, and two buttons for open summary JFrame and open machine settings JFrame. Also, this class include three public static methods to display machine log, to display connected PCs, and to display engineering visits. Here, override the action performed method to handle button click events. Next, we'll move to the machine summary GUI class. At the top of the class, initialize the object variables, and this main method will display the JFrame. This constructor method here set the JFrame properties and other objects. For this constructor required a vector object of client transaction item class. Using that client transaction item class, here it will add connected client IPs to the drop down box. Here we have a dataset method to generate each machine summary. First, it will loop the each client machine and calculate the total added items. Then set each item's values to the dataset and return the dataset. This action perform override method is to display the machine summary using a pie chart. To display this pie chart, we used a reference library called jcommon, jfreechart, and jfreechart SWT libraries. Next, we'll move to the machine settings GUI JFrame class. Top of this class also have initialized the the object variables. This constructor method here generate the JFrames with different properties. This constructor method also required recycling service object. This action performed override method is to save each item value. Once click save, it will read the text field value and assign it to the item value object. Likewise, all four items value we can change from here. Next, I'm going to demonstrate the source package classes. First, we will look client info class. This abstract class has two properties, one for client IP and other one for the client PC. Next, we'll look into the client transaction item class. This class extends from the client info abstract class. This class also has public properties for total cans, total crate, total paper bags, and total bottles. Next, we'll look into the connected client class. This class is to store connected clients to the server. This class only extends the client info class. This engineer visit class here is to store each transaction of engineer visit. This class also extends the client info class. Item value class here is hold the value of each item. This recycling service class is the main class which is responsible for all client transaction. Top of the class initialize the variables. The constructor method here will create new objects of client info, connected client, and engineer visits class. Once a client connected to the server, this login to server method will fire. It will store the connected client's IP and PC name in this vector object. This validate admin login method is to validate when engineer login to the system. Once engineer enter the username and password, it will validate the password is equal to admin123. If password is correct, it will return success, or else it will return false. This update configuration method is to update the client's item values. Once server changes each item value, client can get the update from this method. This will return object array of each item value. This display machine log method used to display each client transaction item. Once a client added an item, it will display on the server side using this method. It will classify each item and calculate the totals. Also, this method will print the machine log. Once a client connected to the server, it will display on the server using this print connected client machine method. It will create a log entry and hold each connected client in this connected client class. This display engineer visits method is to display each engineer transaction. Once engineer reset a client or an item, it will display on the server side using this method. This will hold each transaction item in this engineer visit vector object. Also, this will display each entry on a JText area. This print machine log method is used to print each added items on the server. To display this log entry, we'll use the JTextArea object. Next, I'm going to demonstrate the generated Java doc for XML-RPC Recycling Server. Here we have all classes that used in Java XML-RPC Recycling Server. Here we have client info class, client transaction item class, connected client class, engineer visits class, item value class, and recycling service class. Next, I will show RMI implementation of this recycling server. For RMI implementation of this recycling server, we use same GUI and other source classes used in XML-RPC. Additionally, here we have an interface called Recycling RMI. This interface extends from Java RMI remote interface. Here we have implementation of Recycling RMI interface. The method body of each override method are similar to XML-RPC recycling service methods. As you can see, to store the connected clients, used same method that we used in XML-RPC. Also, for validate admin logins, we use same validation method. Likewise, all the method bodies are similar to XML-RPC. In the server GUI JFrame class, we have started the RMI service using this port number 1089. Once the application starts, the RMI server will start automatically. In the client side, also have this RMI service interface with these same methods. This is the end of Java Eclipse, XML-RPC and RMI code implementation, and thank you.
My name is Ranuka Prashan Hewawasam and my student ID is 1619100. Here I'm going to do the code review of the Recycle Machine client system. Now first I'm going to demonstrate the Recycling Machine client GUI. Here on the client Recycle Machine client GUI, we have created the action control objects. Here we have defined every button, every checkboxes, and every text area on our form. Next, we have defined the JText area object. After that, we have defined the action command for each control we created before. Here for the buttons, we have defined the images as well. Then for each button, we have created the click action to trigger the event. After that, to show the receipt of the items we entered into the system, we have used this show receipt method. To clear the receipt view, we have created this clear text method. Next, we will move on to the other package. Here we have this server communication class. This server communication class is the class we use to pass our information to the server. First, we have this connect to the server method where we use to pass our IP address and the port and the username with the password to the server. To pass these parameters, we use the vector object we created here. Then we use if-else condition here to validate the username and password given. After that, we use this pass added item to the server method to pass the parameters again using the vector object to the server. Next, I'm going to review the action control class we created under the Recycling Machine client application. Under this action control class we created, we have the action performed on our main form. First, we have the button click event for the can, bottle, and crate and with the paper bag here. Then here we have the button click event for the receipt print. as well as the button click event for the connect to the server. Then we use this method item state change to handle the checkbox value change event. Next, we have the classes created for the each items in our recycle machine. First, we have this bottle class. Then we have this can class. Then we have the crate class. After that, we have the customer panel class. This customer panel class gets the received item and passed to other calculations. First, we have the item received method here. Using this method, we classify the items received. Then we have the customer panel class method here. After that, we have the print receipt method here, and we use this print receipt method to calculate the total items we received. After customer panel class, we have the deposit item class defined. This deposit item class is an abstract class. After deposit item class, we have the deposit item receiver class. This deposit item receiver class represents the deposit item receiver. Also, this class has information about the method classify items and calculating received items. Here first we have the deposit item receiver method defined here. Then we have the create receipt basis method here. Then most importantly, we have the classify item method defined here. We use this method to classify the items entered into the system. After that, we have the print received method defined here, and we use this method to calculate the items sum and pass it to the receipt printer class. Then we have the print received item method defined here, and we use this method to display each item added to the system. Finally, we have the print machine full method defined here. This method is displaying the message if the machine is full. After deposit item receiver class, we have the paperback class defined here. This paperback class contains information about the paperback value and its name and its weight. Then we have the printer interface class defined here. This printer interface class has information about the print message, and print in GUI methods. Then we have the receipt basis class here. This receipt basis class gets the received items and added it to the generic list. This class also calculates the sum of each items. First, in this receipt basis class, we have defined the vector object to store the information about deposit items. Then we have add item method defined here. This method calculates each items received and added to the list. Here, using this method, we can validate whether the machine is full before adding items to it. Then we have the compute sum method. We use this method to calculate the total items received. After calculating the sum of the items received, we use if-else condition here and calculate the items added to the system. Here we use the for loop to the vector object we created as my items and loop through every items in that vector. Then we have defined this receipt summary format here. After receipt basis class, we have receipt printer class defined here. This class represents the receipt printer class, and this is to print the report for user. Here we have this print message method to make sure that the user want to show the received on the console or on the GUI. Depending on the selection user made, we display the receipt printer on the GUI or the console. After that, we will move on to the Java doc generated for the recycle client application built on XML-RPC technology. Here I'm gonna go to the index. First, we have the action control class on the Java doc, and it displays all the methods under the action control class. Then we have the each items class defined here. First we have bottle, then we have the crate, and finally the paper bag. Next we have the customer panel class. Deposit item class. Then we have deposit item receiver class. Next we have printer interface class. Then we have the receipt basis class defined here. Next, the receipt printer class. Last but not least, we have the most important server communication class defined here. Next, I'm going to move on to review the Java client application we built using the Java RMI technology. Then we will move on to the global server connection class we created on our RMI implemented client application. Here we have defined the vector object and added deposit items to it. Next, we have the server communication class in our RMI application. One of the things I would like to mention about this class is this is one of the most important classes in our application. On the server communication class, we use this code in the connect to the server to connect the RMI client machine to the server. If the login was success, we display the message login success here. Then using this pass added item to the server method, we pass the information regarding localhost address, host name, and item name. Then we have the validate admin login method defined here. Using if and else condition, we validate the password and the ID entered to the system. Then we have the reset empty machine method here. Using the vector object deposited items, we loop through every item entered and remove the items to make sure the reset empty machine works. Then we have the update configuration method defined here. We use this method to update the item values onto the client machine. Then we have the engineering visit log method defined here. Once the engineer reset the items, we display the message reset full machine using the if-else condition here. Here also we use this code to pass the information to the server about the engineering visit. After server communication class, we will move on to the final class in our system. Here in the recycle RMI class, we have defined the methods login to server, validate admin login, display machine log, and display engineer visits. Now for the RMI implementation, we will finally review the Java doc we created. Here on the Java doc, first we have the action control class defined. Then we have the items entered into the system, bottle, can, crate classes with the paperback class as well. Then we have the customer panel class with the methods. After that, we have the deposit item class and its methods. Then we have deposit item receiver class, global server connection class, then the printer interface class, receipt basis class, and the receipt printer class. Finally, server connect communication class, and finally the recycling RMI class defined in our Java doc. So this will end the Recycling Machine client RMI implementation cloud review.